But I mean, this is just a good segue to maybe have a look at some of the
Yeah, you
videos that
said
I've.
you've gotten some videos, so let's
Right.
go ahead and.
Right. So I should probably start straight away is that I don't know any of the people in here. I've never met them.
Mhm.
I'm not I'm not attacking them personally. This is not an attack on their integrity as a person or their level of Aikido or how they want to practice Aikido. You can practice Aikido however you want to practice it. That's totally fine. This is more of a what would I do if I was training with them as a partner or maybe taking a seminar, teaching a course? How would I tweak it to stick on to the topic of this podcast, which is how to make our Aikido more martial in 2023. So I want to just repeat that I'm not here to, both of us, we're not here to attack anyone's integrity or to say you suck. It's not about that. It's more about, okay, in that little bullet point that I just wrote on Word there, how can we cover some of these bullet points whilst looking at examples that probably don't really cover the bullet points so much? I mean,
Mhm.
there's no point in me putting up one of my videos saying, "Hey, look at me, I'm great, I'm $1 million." You know, no one will watch. It's important maybe to a little bit of a positive critiquing, I think, is what we'll go for here.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
And again, one more time, I don't know any of these people. It's just some videos that I've collected over time and kind of use them as examples to some of my students about how I would do things a little bit differently.
Mhm.
And to be honest, I don't remember each video, so we may have to watch it through once. But here's a good one. This is actually not a video. This is a picture. Now I don't know this gentleman, but I just want to ask people that are looking at this, like, what is happening here? Um, this might be good for the first step, kategeko, but look at what's happening here. You have Uke. I'm not really sure what he's doing. He's trying his dearest to hold on, but he's just keeping his hands there.
Mhm.
How can you get critical feedback if your wazir is working if he's not trying to do something? The other guy here is looking off to the side with one of our pet hates. That's, if you want to do that, that's fine. I personally wouldn't do it. Um, I don't know.
You
What do
know,
you
there's
think?
one thing that strikes me about this position is that if Uke, and I assume the gentleman on the left is Uke because he's grabbing Nage,
Right.
if he lets go, look at his shoulders. He's actually behind Nage,
Mhm.
which is not a good place to have an attacker is behind your shoulders.
Oh, and look at that. Look at the left leg there. That's perfect for it. Like an Ashibaraya sweep, or
Hmm.
like you said, like take his back and pick him up and dump him. And
Right.
so even if you want to practice this way, and that's okay, I believe it's super important to at least be martially aware.
Hmm.
I'm martially aware of the guy that's holding onto your wrist, and
Yeah.
that's
You know,
pretty
and
much the only.
here's another thing too which goes on. How many times have we grabbed somebody's wrist and they've turned their forearm in such a way that you're holding on by like your finger and thumb, like you have no grasp. I see that that's the grasp that he has with
Right.
the ukes with his left hand. So as soon as you get that, instinctually you want to let go because you
You
know
want to
you
let
can't
go.
hold on to them.
Right. Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Any normal
You can't
person would
bring.
just be like, screw this, I'm not going to try to hold on to this, I can't.
Right. So bringing it in here is super dangerous because that's just inviting the guy to say, "Hey, thank you," and he lets
Right.
go.
Yeah, yeah.
So, like, again, it's not a personal critique on this guy, but it's maybe to be a little bit more martial is when someone grabs your wrist, feel what he's trying to do. Is he
Well, and one
pulling?
fundamental that I've found of basically all hoplology, really, and of all combat, regardless of whether it's, you know, militaries or whatever, you want to be facing your opponent. And right there, he's turned away and he's facing away from his opponent, even with his attacker behind him, which is
Right.
like two fundamentals that are kind of
Don't
being
ever show your
violated.
back.
Yep.
Don't ever show your back in any martial art. That's just super
Hmm.
important.
Yep.
Right. We'll move on.
Sure.
So again, I don't know what this is gonna be. So let's watch it first once. Okay. Now I know why I selected this video. It's the well, let me just play it once more here. It's the slow motion brigade. And I always question why are you making your video slow motion? Well, because it looks cool. That's one thing. But I think it's really because the slow motion people are emphasizing the most important point of the video, right? And that's why it's in slow motion. So the most important point of this video is not where it should be, where he's put it in slow motion, whoever made this video. Right. So when I see, this is what I see. I see an elderly gentleman who actually has a bit of spirit in him. You can see his face is red. It looks like he's been training hard. And he's if you look at the way that he's grabbing with intent. See his eyes here. His eyes are focused on the grab. This is really good. I have no problems with Uke at the moment. Perhaps he's a bit telegraphing it a little bit because he's grabbing from so far behind, but well, that's nitpicking. I would say what probably struck the reason I saved this video is what's going on right here. I don't know. What do you see? I mean, I don't see any feedback. I don't see any live.
Yeah,
a little bit further in.
That grab seems like it would be, again, that's thumb and forefinger, index finger that are the only thing holding onto his forearm. I mean, I've been in this position before. It's very hard to keep that grab.
Well, yeah, when you do that grab, I believe that you're supposed to do something with it. You're supposed to grab and then probably pin them onto their body.
Right.
Or pull them.
Yeah, because a grab to me is always a lead up to another attack. It's not an attack all on its own. I suppose the best argument for that would be somebody grabs another person, says, "Here, come with me," and it's just a grab and a pull, and that's all.
In my foolish young days, and one of the reasons I started Aikido is because that happened to me in a nightclub. I think I was about 19, and I got a little bit too drunk, right? And one guy grabbed me by the wrist and the back of the arm and said, "You're out," and turfed me out with just that. So yeah, I mean that's 100% true. And then I guess here we're looking at this part again, eyes looking away, not really much martial intent going on. I mean, we don't know the circumstances behind the video. It could have been a really hot day. They could have been training hard, but it's still not much of an excuse to be looking away. And then here, a guy has turned around on you. He's turned around. He's grabbing your wrist. I would suggest that there's a perfect thing for a front kick right there. Here comes a front kick. But no, it doesn't. He just kind of slow takes him down. And you can still do the lovely Aikido throw, but you just need to be aware right here.
In fact, yeah, freeze right there. Go back a little bit. Right, here's the red flag for me. Nage's right arm is dangling down by his hip. As Uke comes around, his face is right wide open, and watch Uke's free hand.
Yeah, look at that. That left hand is open right.
That could easily pop him in the face or have a finger in the eye. In fact, it almost invites it because Uke's body is turning. It's bringing his arm around. And that could be a bear hug, could be a smack in the side of the face, could be
right there's an elbow to the head.
There's that's a smorgasbord of free attack.
Right. So it's not as we said, it's not a critique on this gentleman. It's just get your hands up maybe,
right.
or think about distance.
Because at the time, right here, okay, right here, he's to Uke's side. That's a good place to be. But as soon as he finishes that turn, he's now turned Uke right to, like you said earlier, he's now right in front of him. Most dangerous place to be.
Right.
And like you said, it could have been a kick that came around, just a flailing arm. If Uke would have had a little bit more forward, like added a little bit of energy to that turn, he could have just tackled Nage as he came around that turn.
You have to give props to Uke though. I mean, he moves quite well for an elder.
Oh yeah, and he's got some great ukemi. Look at that.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So, what else have I got here? What's this one? Okay, I think that's enough. The first reason I chose this video is firstly, why the drums, man?
I
The
don't.
drums, the drums are
Oh, I don't hear
so.
any drums.
Oh, you can't hear any drums. There's no
No.
sound on this. Okay, well, this
Okay.
has the taiko drums
Okay.
on it, right?
Well,
And I
drama.
think,
The music creates the drama.
right. Well, I think the drums need to match the speed.
Sure.
Okay, and this is going super slow. So anyway, enough of that. So what's going on here? Let's have a look. What's going on here? Okay,
I
well,
see
he's
a
got his
lot of
hand up.
shoulder tension.
Yeah, he's got his hand up, but he's relying on Uke holding on for dear life.
Right. That's one thing too that I found that you kind of need to train ukes to do, which is to give up their own posture before they give up their grip.
Mhm.
Brand new people that come in, they'll let their grip get lost before they'll let their body tip over, one forward, sideways, backward, whatever. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
I didn't. I mean, I wonder. I think this is more of skipping over the jutsu,
Hmm.
the martial part of it, and just going for the end, the Aikido indo.
Sure.
Why are we putting our hand here? What does that mean? Well, it was a choke,
Hmm.
right? Or it was some maybe a takedown. It was, but now it's just kind of like, well, he's just kind of trying to snake his hand in there and get some kind of funky kazushi.
Sure.
Uh, I don't know, man. I mean, this guy is he's 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 large kind of gentleman. I wouldn't have any confidence in being able to maneuver if
That's
he
the one
really went
thing I
for it.
found with guys that are bigger, heavier, that they tend to have more muscle just because they work out just by moving around. They don't give up their posture very easily.
Yeah, this gentleman's given up his balance quite easily and nicely. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yep.
as an exercise, sure, it's good for developing leg muscles
Oh,
and
sure.
strengthening your back perhaps.
Hmm.
Well, I just hope that they realize what Idemi. That's why I chose that one, just so they realize what Idemi is. And it's not where look at the eyes. It's not looking down at the wrist here. Both of them are both looking at the one point. This is kind of an escape from the points that I mentioned earlier.
Sure.
I wouldn't have both guys looking at one spot, but anyway, that's what do you think?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's the looking down at the hands, I think is a an artifact of when you're a beginner and you're like, okay, what just grabbed me and what do I need to do with my hands? You were watching your instructor's hands do Nikio or whatever it is he's going to do, and you just get in the habit of looking at the hands, which you don't
Right.
need to do once you start to know the feeling of the motion. Your eyes should be on up in the shoulder area, chin, not and watching the body and everything else, not looking down at the hand. Um,
Right. Yeah, good for
but
beginners.
it's habits that get worn in as you go from beginner to intermediate, and then if you don't ever break away from them, you just keep having them, keep on with it.
Right. So again, keeping on the theme of how can we improve in the new
Mhm.
year and trying to break some of these habits.
Absolutely.
All right. So what have I got here? What's this next one? Oh, um, I think he's one of your fellow countrymen from memory. I don't know who this is, and it's not really a thing on him, but it's more of just like this trying to. I personally would never try to muscle somebody whose hand is all the way up here.
Yeah, there seems to be a lot of
Why?
muscle in this one.
Why are we taking them to the ground? That's the question. Why are we taking them? See, he wants to go down here.
Right.
Okay, and that's fine. This is a valid technique, but we have to understand the why would we do that?
Hmm.
And the reason we would do that is because Uke is supposed to chop hard right through you.
Hmm.
Okay. And as we've taken him down, see, there's no hard chop. He stops here. Is it a chop that he's doing, or it is a showman, right?
Well, it was a grab, and then he releases the
Grab.
grab at the top.
Okay. So in that case, then you don't just if someone's broken the grip, you don't just leave your hand up there, right? You need to give them feedback. And that
Mhm.
feedback is, oh, what are you doing?
Sure.
Get your hand out of there. And as they get your hand out of there, you take them to the ground.
Hmm.
Um,
To
I don't
me,
know. I
I'm
wouldn't.
seeing a disconnect between Nage's lower body and his upper body. And you can see it with what's about to happen right here. See his head and his shoulder turn, his hips are facing one way and now his shoulders are starting to face another way. Like his rotation is not in sync.
I mean, this is a very this is a style of Aikido that's really popular right now. It has
Is
been
it
for a
what
while.
is it?
I suppose this is kind of like the Chiba Shibata style, I
Oh, okay.
suppose.
Mm-hmm.
Those kind of guys. I mean, Chiba was a legitimate, badass, of
Oh,
course.
definitely. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I
I
mean,
also
have a look at
noticed right there, actually go back a
Uke.
couple of frames right there. See the gap between Nage and Uke? That 4 to 5 inches makes it so that he has to use his shoulders to
Right.
connect. I've found that the closer you get, like if you have your gi right up against his gi, like front to back, when you turn, your hands can be really light. It takes a lot of the tension out of the shoulders.
Yeah, that's valid. Um, and being efficient in your
Right.
technique. I
And
don't
and look at
understand.
how his feet have turned. Like his right leg is coming behind, all the way behind and around where Uke's around to his left. So he's like almost spun from his feet to his shoulders. Like
I
he's
guess this mostly just comes from, okay, maybe not being aware that you can be taken down,
mm-hmm.
that Uke could spin around and clock you.
Right.
Uh, I don't know.
Yeah, and I've seen videos too where Uke gets taken all the way down to the ground, and then Nage lifts him back up off the ground in order to do a rimi. And I think
right.
yeah,
We talked about that. Yeah,
that's a lot of work. If you're going to throw
that's
somebody to the ground, why lift them back up again to throw them back down again?
like I said, dude. You're 6'4". I'm 5'9". I have zero confidence that I would be able to do that to you.
Yeah.
I don't care how much wrestling I have or whatever. I would not be able to do that to
Mm-hmm.
anyone who knows that. So anyway, that's just me. And like I said, we're not having a go at this particular gentleman. It's just what I see.
Sure.
This one. These
I
guys are
do
somewhat
like that he
famous.
ends this throw with his legs, not just throwing his shoulders forward. But there's so much setup in there that he's kind of fiddling with.
These guys are famous. The Singaporean guys
Okay.
for being more concerned with how it looks.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay,
there's
here you see.
okay. Go back a couple frames right there. See his elbow right next to next to Nage's chin, even with a hand on it. That's closer than I like an elbow to be to my face because elbows are powerful enough that they don't go through hands they go through hands very easily.
Right. I guess I chose this one mostly because here you have him right here. If that was me, I'd just go straight down.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Just crush.
Instead, he kind of brings him back and throws him outwards and longwards.
Mm-hmm. Which is more
Whilst looking,
dramatic.
yeah, it
It's
was
more
more
dramatic
dramatic.
looking to see that horizontal
Whilst
throw.
whilst kind of looking away.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
I
and
mean
he's certainly
that's
not one of the worst offenders when it comes to looking away from.
no, definitely not. I mean his techniques there. I mean they're beautiful techniques, but I mean
Yep.
it's again the same.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not a good example. There would have been a reason. Another.
That was
Yeah,
fun.
it's mostly just the eyes I felt on this young man.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, moving on.
Yeah, we can do a couple more.
Yeah, what about okay? If that's a couple more, let me find some of the bigger culprits here. What do we got? What's this one? Okay, so this is something I put this one in here because I don't understand it. I'm not a Yoshinkan guy, so I may need a Yoshinkan guy to explain this to me. From my perspective, this doesn't make any sense, but we'll watch it and you'll see. And if there's a Yoshinkan person out there who can explain why this happens, I'd love to hear. I personally don't understand this. it seems to me that he's saying, I think this guy's pretty famous too. I'm not sure who it is, but I think he might be one of the higher ranking guys in Yoshinkan. Uh, the grip is super weak on his right hand. Um, saying to look far over there. I didn't understand. What do you think of this one?
You know, the only thing I can see is as a reason to turn those hips or to turn that way is to remind Nage to actually do a full turn of his hips, because a lot of people like to cut that hip turn short. And when they cut it short, they lose connection to uke. But I agree with you. I think turning and looking away and then stepping away right here, if you just as a freezer here, uke's behind Nage and Nage put him there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not wild about that part again because of
Yeah,
never give somebody your back.
right. It could be that you're looking for a multiple attackers. There might be another opponent there,
Right.
but if there is multiple opponents, I would probably want to put this guy in between me and the other opponent.
Right. As opposed to, yeah,
Probably
exactly.
wouldn't. And then you have a look at, and I apologize to all the Yoshinkan people. I might get in trouble because he's a senior guy, but he seems to he's maybe looks 80-20. He's balanced his feet. It seems to be very much on his left foot, which is leaves yourself really open to any kind of attack from Uke right here.
You know, the one thing that strikes me, and I've got tremendous respect for Gozo Shiota, but what I've noticed is that when I see Yoshinkan practitioners, they don't move like Shiota moved. They have got a completely different stance, completely different method of movement, and I'm curious as to why that is.
I'll give you my take on why I think why.
Hmm.
And it's the same with Tada Sensei, who's a ninth dan in the Aikikai, and his students fall into the same trap. And I think it's because you can only get to being Gozo Shioda. You can only be him because of what he went through.
Right.
He went through his seriously incredibly hard training. He went through experiences with other people, and he became that guy. And I kind of feel that they're only watching the end product, and they're skipping over what it took to get there. And I think if you try to skip over what it took to get there and just focus on what it looks like, you miss everything in between.
Sure.
And that's probably why it's probably more of a case of just being lost in translation.
That could be. I tell you, the one thing, go ahead and speed this up to that point that we were frozen on, because it reminded me of somebody else and somebody that probably everybody recognizes. Right there. Or do it, yeah, from the other side. Do it on the next rep.
This is great. I mean, it does teach you to get your hands up, I suppose. This is not a bad
hands up and off the line. No, from here. Okay. So I've seen this. I've seen Tristan do this, something similar. He does like a tenkan step, and he's got his hand all the way around back behind him. He's got Uke's wrist in a grab.
I've seen that, yeah.
And he's got him completely behind, turns him around, and then brings him back. And I remember training that years ago. We worked on it in our dojo because my instructor, he was taught to do that too. And that just raised so many red flags with me. You know, one, I got my arm bent behind my back, which is not a strong position for my own shoulder. What if I lose contact with him? What if he adapts? He's behind me. I've lost sight of him. Like, so many things about that just kind of bothered me. I had trouble getting leverage. If I didn't really have them tripping by the time I started that turn and they recovered even halfway, I was totally screwed. But, you know, if you have a well-programmed uke that is taught not to go off the tracks, you can get away with that. But that's something that always bothered me, of, you know, purposefully turning away.
It's just a simple case of being a little bit more martially aware.
Yeah. Now it does look visually dramatic. When you watch somebody do that, boy, it looks, you get Hakama swooshing all over the place, and it looks really super cool.
Yeah. All right. Here's another one I want to show. This is the reason I selected this one, is because this is about fostering an environment where people should be keeping the kettle boiling.
Okay.
You can't hear the music, right? On this.
Yes, I can. This one I can
You
hear.
can. Okay. So I also questioned the music choice. Okay. I don't have anything to say other than there's no martial arts going on here.
To,
Unfortunately, I don't want to, speak ill of anyone, like I say, but I mean, watch all their reactions, watch their faces. We'll play it one more time. Watch everybody's faces and their complete lack of wanting to move their body. It's basically this is a dance, what I see right here. These are high Dan grades. Okay, it's
that's
not
the
like
first thing that struck me was this is what I would expect to see of beginner to maybe intermediate students going through the
yes.
footwork step motion of Shionage light. So they're not cranking anybody's shoulder. They're allowing uke the chance to do their ukemi because this is a pretty advanced ukemi. So if they're getting used to it, they should be going slow and smooth so nobody gets hurt. But yeah, from I would expect to see a little, and there's some smaller technical issues that stand out to me. One is right here, is right there. Why can you just pull the guy's hand off your wrist and set it before you start
This
the
this
motion?
might be. I believe this is the Key Society. I believe it might be, or
Okay.
Takemusu Aikido, maybe. I'm not sure, but again, it could be a style thing. It might
Mhm.
be that this particular style of Aikido is
That's the second one. He brings his hand way up over the behind his head. That could be very easily reversed. Um, Here, as you watch Nage's right hand, you can watch the wrist break as she goes up, which is a very weak position.
Well, I mean, you got Uke here is looking. She's looking at Nage. It's
Right.
good eye
And there's no
contact. That's
balance.
right.
There's no balance taking there yet. There's no Kazushi.
She's got her left hand up here
Mm-hmm.
and she's looking. So that's actually pretty somewhat. It maybe it's apart from her feet being shoulder width and not in any kind of stance.
Mm-hmm.
She's kind of suggesting, "Hey, I can slap you in the face here." But it's actually not that. It's actually just that they're trying to both look beautiful, I suppose. And I
Yep.
mean, it's really great that women
And
can
again, hands straight over the
do this.
top of her head. That could be reversed very easily. And there
I
it is
would
again.
personally hope that. I mean, this young man looks like he could go. He's
Mm-hmm.
young. He looks fit.
Definitely.
I I would hope that they could put the kettle on and boil their tea a little bit
Yeah.
more. He's got beautiful chemi though.
Yeah, definitely.
It
Yeah,
could
it's
just
really
be.
good.
It could, like I said, it could be the style.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's
How
do one
many? How
more.
much time? One more. What do we got here then?
I'm sure we could do this
Yeah.
for another hour or two.
Yeah. Well, we won't bore everybody with them, but there was one particular one that
Sure.
I'm looking for here. All right, we'll go on to the theme of since you were just talking about Christian Tissia. I'm not sure who this guy is, but he does remind me a lot of Tissia Sensei.
And I'll say of Tissier, nobody puts on a better demo than him. I mean,
Oh
his
yeah,
stuff
no.
is just amazing.
So I mean, the name of the video is Goffin, so that could be his name. I'm not sure. And I just this is the one you were talking about.
Yeah. Yep.
I think the one you were talking about was this one.
Yes. Yeah. He turns all the way around away from that hand behind his back. There.
Yeah, that's the one. I mean, it looks like a mean Kotegash, but it's the end product, right?
Mhm.
It's not. I would question this next technique. This is what I looked at when I saw this, and I was like, okay, why? Why would this happen? Uke is coming all the way around in a big circle. This sensei
And
with
Nage's letting him.
with his very wide stance. There's Ashibarai right there. That's a nice foot sweep. Eyes completely. I don't know.
Down.
Maybe this is peripheral vision, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, right there you can see the right hand of Uke. That's a pin onto the hips.
Right.
Pin that guy's hand on his hips, or pull, do something, give him some kind of feedback so that he's got something to play with.
Yep.
It also could be that perhaps because he's showing the technique to the class, it's there's not really much you could do, but. Yeah, I mean it's nice Aikido.
It's a lot of turning. The one thing, and back it up just a little bit to one of the ones of how much time he lets. Firstly, he lets Uke come around behind him, and I was trained this as well, but he's standing there as Uke finishes his turn and comes in behind. All Uke would have to do is, instead of grabbing the wrists, he would grab him around the waist and he's done. It's over.
Bear hug him.
Yeah,
bear
body
hug
lock,
him.
and he's toast. So the
Especially
solution.
with the go on.
Go ahead and back it up just a bit. Right here is you lead him around as he starts coming. You cut hard under his arm and get out from in front of him, because you can't be waiting when he comes around that corner.
No.
You can't be in front of him anymore. It's kind of a high risk move to let him come around you, but sometimes, real world, you find somebody's coming around you, but you've got to cut out of there.
Right.
I think staying there is dangerous.
Mm-hmm. Can we do one more?
Yeah. Let's do one
Last
more.
one. I just really want to find it because it was the one I wanted to show the most. I apologize. I just got to find it. Make these bigger so I can see them. I'm using these as tools to improve myself. By the way, I'm not keeping them just to say, hey,
always
it's not that
good to look around and see what's going on. And I really like finding good habits, because there are stuff that people do in these that is very good.
This is the one. And now this is most likely because it's in Japan, where we have zero threat of any kind of violence here in Japan. In Australia, and especially my home state of Queensland, there's been a spate of home break-ins with knives. It seems like every other week we're having home break. Just the other day, a young woman who was 41 got stabbed to death on a random home break-in. It's not anywhere near as close to the gun violence that you guys have, or the threat of real violence that exists in the States, but we still have the threat of violence, and Japan doesn't have any of that. So it's probably an effect of that, but let's just play it. It's
sure.
Is this the same gentleman we just? It might be the same guy we just looked at, the Yoshinkan guy.
That could be.
Just kill this sound. I'm looking more at Uke on this one more than Nage.
You learn a lot by watching Uke, for sure.
What I don't understand. I don't understand what's going on here. That was the reason I did it. What is Uke thinking? When you have someone in the back of the collar, like you said, it's for a reason. It's for a follow-up.
Right.
You pull them down. Now, probably this is for some kind of demonstration or whatever, but you cannot react the way that Uke has reacted here. This is it's comical.
I wonder if, and having contemplated this for a long time, we teach Nage to finish. how often do we teach uke how to finish the attack that they're supposed to be doing?
Yeah, good
I don't
point.
think we
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
We like, okay, grab a wrist, grab a gi,
And then
throw a
stop.
punch, and then just stop doing, and then you let Nage do their thing. Like,
This is a great way to integrate our 3 steps of training.
right.
Take it up a level, right? So
Mhm.
here, for the first step of the Aikido training that we talked about, the Kata Geiko, okay, maybe I still would never react like that ever. But okay, fine. He's done it. That's fine. The next reaction would be, okay, we need a little bit of pressure, and that would be to pull as he
It's
turns. And
funny because right there a moment ago he raised his arms, and I thought, oh, this is great because now if he turns, his head's protected. But then he
yeah.
drops his hands and turns around with his head sticking up.
Yeah, I mean, you're taught in all martial arts, get your hands up,
Right.
right? And
Absolutely.
when you have someone coming towards you, perhaps on the street, or someone who's, the first thing you're always taught is, get your hands up,
Yep,
and then you can
absolutely. And
move from there.
if you got somebody behind you, you can't see them, and you turn, you better have that head cover up, or you better have
hands up.
you're going to turn right around into a fist.
And he's like, yes, you're right. So he drops his hands. Uke does some kind of funky, crazy little reaction and stands there like there's nothing happening martially here.
Right.
Unfortunately, it's to me, because I don't like the style too much. I mean, it's not even really aesthetically pleasing. But
Well, it's robotic and choppy, and I always attached Aikido as being smooth movement based, not
yeah,
abrupt.
that's
And
probably possibly because it's Yoshinkan and they seem
it
to be
could
a
be.
little bit more robotic and choppy.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean that's it.
And I personally, I prefer a level change when I turn to
Mhm.
face somebody behind me because I don't like keeping my head in the same
Right.
place, either vertically or horizontally.
Yeah. Okay, dude, I'm sorry. One more. This is
Oh,
definitely
sure.
the last one.
Okay.
All right, now just turn the sound down on this so I can talk to you. And let's watch it through first once.
Okay. There it is, the pick them up off the ground.
Yokota Sensei is the only teacher I've ever come across in all of Aikido that teaches this knee. Hey, that's not a bad thing. That's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Just take him straight down.
Yep.
Why drag him all the way over here? I didn't personally, I didn't get it. And then why all the effort to try and throw him at the end? Like, you have a look here. The knee is actually, it's a decent. I mean, the knee could be better. He needs to drill kneeing people a little bit better. But hey, whatever. He's putting it in. Great.
Mm-hmm.
Why all this at the end?
He's also a tall guy, and I can relate to this. It's
Okay.
easy to, when you want to throw, to bend over. You keep your hips high and you bend your body over. I've found that limits. Now he's looks at be built a little heavier than I am, but I've found much more power in dropping my hips and keeping my posture up a little bit more like an athletic stance than bending over at the waist.
Right.
And if
So
somebody
how can we
holds on to
improve?
you
Probably
when you bend over at the waist, you're going down.
right.
Just
So how
flat.
can we improve this? Like, we're talking the theme of improving our training. Okay, well, there's not really much we can do here. Sure, he brings him down. I would ask Uke to stand up here, or maybe check to help me check, grab a leg.
Mm-hmm.
At least stand up. At least try as Uke to try and regain your balance. And as you stand up and regain your balance, probably you can throw in
And
a
I
nice.
found something that actually helps with the responsiveness. Because look, once he gets him on all fours here, it looks like Nage is keeping pressure down on his shoulders. Well, if Uke's on all fours and you've got pressure down on him, he's not going to want to stand up because he's got your weight.
Right.
But if you suddenly let the pressure up, then he sometimes will want to come back up. So you're inviting him by letting the pressure up.
Right. And I guess as far as make it a little bit more martial, well, I'm not sure having the inside of your arm on the top of your head here is rarely going to do anything. Maybe think about striking, perhaps, or going behind and right here. There's a choke all day of the week here.
Yep.
And if we knew how to choke properly, I think people would think about it more.
You know, one thing that I've been working on with my students for the last couple of years, intermittently, which is to actually get them in a position like he had with hand on the shoulder. You get them on all fours, and then you just put pressure down on the shoulder to anchor that hand. You're making them post, and that's a very strong position. You just keep weight on them, and then you pivot down so they can't grab your feet. Because what more do you need to do from there? Do you need to bring them up to do another throw? I think that's excessive.
Yeah.
But from there, and you've got to grab on their shoulder, on their gi. If they do come up, you can just roll them over with that hand. You don't even need to do a fully riminage. It's a great control position, and it's also a great position where you can just release and run. If you needed to get out of there, you're not playing with your food anymore. You've got them on all fours, and you can beat feet. So
give him a little love tap
Yeah.
with the foot. Get out of there.
You know, it's a great position, and it's very easy to get to with very simple tools like a rag, where you just kind of, rag them down and they're on all fours, pivot out, you're done. So great self-defense stuff. So
Yeah.
well, it's cool. I'm
So
glad you
just to say one more time that we didn't use those videos in any way to try and rag people or put them down, and I'm very happy that they're able to enjoy their Aikido and train hard. I'm just saying, to keep on the theme of our topic of how could we make things a little bit more martial and how can we check ourselves, and it's important sometimes to have a look at ways to improve.
It is. And, I wanted to kind of wrap things up again with the tip of, you're a student at a dojo, again, maybe you're senior. If you're interested in pursuing bringing a little more martial aspect of your Aikido, mention it to your instructors, mention it to your other seniors. You'll probably find somebody there that will say, yeah, I'd like to play with that a little bit more. Martial arts should be a place where we explore, not that we are just there to memorize some kind of chart or list or whatever. And it's easy to get caught in a dojo culture where you get caught up in thinking, okay, what are the techniques I need to memorize for my next belt test? And there you get stuck into a very linear track. Now, granted, if that's what means everything to you is getting past that test and getting promoted, well, that's great. But just realize that's going to be more limiting than it's going to be liberating. Right. And it's fun to explore that way. It's what I enjoy about the martial arts. Most martial artists enjoy that exploration. And so give some thought as to what you want from your martial art this next year, and make some progress into making that happen. If that's exploring cross training, fabulous. If it's even just talking to people in your own dojo, maybe that have other martial arts experience or want to train with you in such a way to start playing around more, learning to play chess. It's more nourishing than you think it is if you find that it's intimidating to get started.
Yeah, well, taking that first step can be hard and can be daunting for some people, but once you take that first step and figure out how you can explore, I think that's just the most fun part of everything.
It is. And, with everybody that I've trained with that have taken on this aspect, there's such a joy in it. You're really like you're like you're playing. It's not like you're at each other's throats trying to tear each other's heads off. You're exploring and playing, and you're finding out what works and what doesn't. And you don't need to do it at 100% intensity in order to learn that way. In fact, you should not. You should be learning it at lower intensity. You'll figure out the math. And then when you get comfortable with that, then you can start adding a bit more intensity to it. But as long as you're not getting overwhelmed, because if you're totally overwhelmed, you're not going to be learning. Need to do it at a pace and a rate that your brain can process, because that's what a dojo is. It's a learning environment.
Well, this is not a new thing either. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Aikido might be one of the only martial arts that doesn't do it. I know in wrestling, in jujitsu, in karate, we did do all that stuff you just talked about,
Hmm.
right? And so it's not like we're reinventing the wheel and trying to make martial arts different.
Correct.
It's just trying to make Aikido a little bit more like the other ones.
Hmm.
That's
Absolutely.
basically it. Yeah.
And and I found this with whatever art I've trained back when I competed, the greatest joy I ever experienced was when I had a really great improvisation that just, I don't even know where it came from. It came from all the practice that I did with the kata training and the discipline part, and then it came out in live play. And it makes me giddy to think about, when you find that success, like everything that you train for clicks when it needs to click, and it just happens. And
Yeah.
that is so much more enjoyable than just memorizing katas and patterns, and that's the boring stuff. Like, don't let your training just be nothing but the boring stuff.
Well, that happened to me after 5 years away from Aikido.
Mm,
Right? I took 5 years off to focus on my pro wrestling and
mm,
catch wrestling. And then when I came back within like about 6 months, the penny kind of just dropped.
okay.
And exactly what you just said. And I still wonder if that's because I had to leave and come back
Yeah,
to
could be.
for the penny to drop. I wonder what would have happened if I'd stayed and just done that Aikido for 5 years.
Mm,
I'll never know. I don't want to know. But
hmm. Well, and yeah, martial arts to me should be a joy. It is a joy for me to train it, to teach it, to learn it. I'm always learning. I think, if anything, if you're wondering at the beginning of the year, looking forward, make your martial art training joyful. Um, that would be my recommendation. How about you?
yeah,
What would
yeah,
yours be?
joyful, but also meaningful.
Absolutely.
Not having empty techniques, empty waza.
Mhm.
Our techniques must mean something. We got to be doing things for a reason. So whilst it's great to have fun, yeah, break the bad habits, try to make things mean something. And I guess we can finish off with saying, like, ask why.
Yeah, that's a
It's
great
a
one.
great way to finish.
Yep.
Ask why. Why are we doing this now?
Hmm.
Why now? Why this technique? Why in this moment?
Hmm. Because if you don't have the why, you're just being a carbon copy.
Yeah, yeah. As a good example. You gave me a great word on our last podcast, a cookie cutter.
Yeah, the cookie cutter.
Yeah,
Yep.
and I've used that since you told me that word. It's a great word, the cookie cutter.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Ryan. It was great to have you
Thank
here
you.
again. I know you're about to get busy. This is kind of your holiday break, so
Yeah,
um,
I've been off, but yeah, back to the grind. So
yep.
I wish
Don't
everyone.
overwork yourself.
Yeah, I'll try not to, but I hope everyone had a great Christmas and a very great New Year, and I hope 2023 is rewarding for everybody.
Yep, me too. Happy New Year, everybody.
All right, thank you.
Take care.
Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you enjoyed this discussion. Stay tuned for more episodes. I've got some great stuff on the way very soon. In the meantime, enjoy your training.